Good morning. Hey, Ruth.
Hi, good morning, Arif.
Justin.
Hi, Reef. Hey, Seth.
Hi, Seth.
So good to be with you all this morning.
Y'all,
Yeah.
I see I did not get the memo to wear blue today. I'm really sorry about that.
The same thing.
We circulated that memo, Reef.
Must have been
I don't
from
know.
last week. I got the memo about the green.
I don't know how you missed
Your
it.
email.
Yeah, I mean, we sent it out. Yeah.
All right, next week we're all green. We'll
All right.
go green
So I'll be wearing blue.
next week.
That's
Sounds good.
Hey,
Well,
everybody coming in?
yeah,
Yeah.
they're just coming right in.
Here we come. Oh, it's really good. Always watching this at that last minute. I always know that it always surprised me at church of watching people come in and thinking and always initially that, oh, no one's going to show up this morning. That's okay. It's just going to be light attendance. Then we'd get into the words of welcome and I'd look up from the hymnal and the place is packed. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Really a joy to watch everyone come in. So good morning, and welcome to all of you joining us. My name is Justin Schroeder. I'm one of the ministers at First Universalist Church. I'm delighted you're here, joining us from the Twin Cities, from the state, from many other places around the country and the world. I want to extend a really warm welcome this morning to members of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County, Wisconsin. They are joining us in worship today, and we're just thrilled that you're with us. And I want to invite you, if you're joining from somewhere else outside of the Twin Cities, you can open up the chat box. There's a little chat icon at the bottom of your screen, and just open that up and let us know where you're from so we can welcome you. Just type that in there, and we'd love to extend a welcome to you. First Universalist has been a beacon of love and hope for generations. At the heart of this faith is the proclamation that each human being is whole and holy, beloved and beautiful, no exceptions, no conditions, no buts. In this faith community, we listen deeply to where love is calling us next. We welcome, affirm, and protect the light in each human heart, and we act with humility, courage, and compassion in service to justice. We do all of these things as a faith community committed to racial justice. And this is the life we are inviting you into when you journey with us. These are the spiritual muscles we are building so that we can be in solidarity in the struggle for justice. There are many ways you can connect with us. Here are just a few. You're invited to join us on Wednesdays at 7 for virtual worship, or Sundays at 10 o'clock for our Sunday morning worship. And if you'd like to be included in our prayers and our cycle of life time in each service, please reach out to Reverend Karen or any staff member. So if you are needing support, financial support, emotional support, spiritual support, please reach out to us. And if you'd like to be specifically included in those communal prayers, let us know. Today, after the service, we'll be hosting 2 virtual coffee hours, one for Black, Indigenous, multiracial, and people of color, and one that is open to all identities. And today our beloved Reverend Ruth McKenzie is preaching her final sermon with us as she is retiring at the end of this month. Next Sunday, our service will really be a final celebration of Ruth as we say our last goodbyes. It's a big morning. It's a big time. And many of you will remember that when a minister leaves a congregation, there is a year of complete separation between minister and congregation. In essence, there will be no contact with Ruth, no Zoom meetings, no emails, no phone calls, no contact with Ruth. And I want to say that this is not due to a lack of love or care or affection between Ruth and the congregation. In fact, this time of separation is really a long-standing best practice in ministry, which helps ensure 2 things. First, that the congregation fully understands that Ruth's ministry has ended and that she is no longer an active minister at First Universalist. And then second, this practice of separation means that Ruth can fully and freely live into the new chapters unfolding in her life, letting go of the obligations and the responsibilities of ministry. It's a big transition, and there are big feelings in this goodbye. in a time when there are already so many big feelings. This is why taking the time for this good goodbye is so important. And I want to invite you, if you haven't done this already, to send an email or a note to Ruth to let her know how she's impacted you or touched your life or your spirit. You can also contribute a gift to Reverend Ruth, her retirement. We're gathering gifts for this large retirement gift. You can send a check to the church or make an online contribution. Just note that it's for Ruth's retirement gift. So it's a big Sunday, a celebration of Ruth and also a time of transition and goodbyes. So I think that means we should take a moment to settle and center ourselves, to prepare our hearts and minds for this time of worship, this time of renewal, this time of connection, this time of good goodbyes. And so I invite you to join me in taking 3 deep breaths as we settle into this space together. And now I invite you to, if you have your chalice nearby or need to go find your chalice, to pick up your chalice if you have it, and to light your chalice and to join us, join Canute and Juliet as we light our chalice and they say our chalice lighting words together.
Please join me for the words of the lighting of the chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Hello, my dear friends. It is so exciting to be back in service with all of you. It's been too many weeks, and I'm glad to get to share a message with you today. So I want to tell you a story that my dad used to tell me a long time ago, over many years. So I hope I can do it justice. And this story is about a guy sitting at his kitchen table, reading the newspaper, enjoying a Sunday morning. And his wife comes down the stairs and says, "Good morning, honey." And he says, "Good morning, dear," and goes back to reading his paper. And she says, "Honey, you don't remember what day it is, do you?" And he is speechless. He doesn't remember what day it is. Is it her birthday? I don't think it's her birthday. Is it Valentine's Day? I don't think it's Valentine's Day either. So he decides he's just gonna cover all of his bases, and he goes out into the town and he thinks, well, I'll get some donuts. She loves donuts, I'll just get some donuts. That's not enough though. I think we need a whole meal, so I think I'll get some pizza too. So I got pizza and I got donuts. That's a pretty good day, but she needs something else. She needs well, maybe I'll get a rose as well. We'll get a beautiful rose. So there's a rose and a pizza and some donuts. What else could we do? Oh, what about some jewelry? She loves jewelry. I'll get her a beautiful new ring. So we got jewelry and a rose and pizza and donuts. Something else, maybe, oh, how about some makeup? She loves makeup. I'll get her some makeup too. So he's so excited and he goes home with his big stack of gifts and he decorates the entire house, top to bottom, streamers and balloons, as much decor as he can possibly pack into the house. And he tells their kids, it's a very special day. Make sure that when mom comes home, you are so excited to see her and you say surprise along with me. And they all get ready and they have their gifts ready to go. And the house is immaculately decorated and mom walks in the door and they say, surprise! Good day. And the mom says, wow, thank you so much. This is the best Groundhog's Day ever. My friends, you know that family never forgot Groundhog's Day again, right? And not because Groundhog's Day itself was so important, but because of how they felt that day, how they all came together to celebrate that day, right? So there's a quote from the poet Maya Angelou that I hold really close to my heart. And it's one we repeat a lot when we do our church work. And that's, if I've learned that people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Now, today is Father's Day. And you might have a mom and a dad at home, and you might have more than one dad at home. You might just have moms at home. Maybe you have your own special grown-ups that take care of you. And maybe Father's Day matters a bunch, and maybe Father's Day doesn't matter so much. But whoever takes extra special good care of you, I hope that today you can pile on a bunch of love and you can make them remember how they feel today. Now, I have an extra special grown-up right here at church who's with us this morning. And she didn't raise me like a parent did, but she does fill my heart up with love, oh so often. And Ruth has been a role model for me and so many other people in the church. And I know that I will never forget how Ruth has made me feel. So please now sit back and enjoy our very own choir's rendition of Go the Distance, directed by Randy Bykema.
Thank you, choir. You know, I was doing okay until you all said you were crying. Lots and lots and lots of big feelings today. Oh, thank you so much, choir. Thank you, Randy. Yeah, lots of feelings this morning. So, friends, as we enter this time of prayer, I invite you to put down what you're holding, except maybe your tissue. I'm certainly holding on to mine. Let's breathe. Let's let our gaze be soft. Let our bodies feel all the things that we're feeling. You know, as Unitarian Universalists, we understand prayer in many, many different ways. And as we enter this time of prayer, it's good to remember that, amongst other things, prayer is about alignment. The prayer is about getting lined up. It is about getting lined up with what we believe is most true. It is about getting lined up with what we believe is most important. It is about getting our heads lined up with our hearts, lined up with our actions, lined up with the change that we want to see in the world. It is about aligning vertically in the dimension of dignity and integrity. So maybe you want to sit up a little straighter. It is about getting lined up in our width, in the dimension of relationship, reaching out to those on either side of us, even if we can't see them. It is about getting aligned in the dimension of our depth, front to back, past, present, and future. And so as we enter this time of prayer, this time of alignment, this time of settling into our dignity, our integrity, our relationship, and our place in history, let's take another deep breath together as we settle into a moment of silence, a moment to feel together this breath that makes us one. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, things are not as they were. Things are not as we thought that they might have been. Things are as they are, and we are here. My meditation teacher often invites us to notice, to ask ourselves, this is how the mind is right now. Can this be okay? God of patience and presence, is this our practice right now? Can we ask ourselves, this is how life is right now. This is how life is right now. Can this be okay? Can I be okay with life like this? Spirit of life, God of patience and compassion and deep breaths, help us to listen to ourselves now, here. Help us to hear how we answer those questions. Can I be okay with this? Can I be okay with life like this? And help us to have the courage to ask for what we really need. Help us to ask when we need someone to listen, really listen. Help us to ask when we need food, when we need shelter, when we need to gather appropriately distanced to be in another person's energy, when we need space because everything is too much for a moment. Help us to have the courage to ask for what we really need, particularly if we are not okay with how life is right now. We don't have to be okay all the time. Life is different now than it was. It is quieter now than it was a few weeks ago. The flames that burned in our streets have been extinguished, but the fire of commitment to work for justice burns bright, and it gets brighter each day. It gets brighter with each passing day as more and more people wake up to this present moment. Wake up and hear the question and answer very clearly, no. The way things are is not okay. It has not been okay for more than 400 years, and it will not be okay until we make this a world of justice, a world of love, a world of compassion, a world in which we can all breathe free. God of bright burning justice, help us to see the outlines of the world to be. Help us to know and do our part in making it real. Help us to be present to what is. This has been a week of heartbreak, a week of loss and sorrow. And there is so much that we are holding, each of us. And so I invite you now to share in the chat box those things that are weighing upon your heart, that we might hold them with you, that we might ease what we are carrying, even if just for a short while. There is violence again in our communities. Family members undergoing medical treatment. The continued distance. It's so hard, those of us with small children, trying to understand why we can't be together, why they can't play with their friends. This is just a difficult time to be alive, to be in the world. Just paying attention hurts sometimes. And to the sorrows, the grief named, I add that we hold in our hearts Byron Miller, Jennifer Weiss, and Marissa Miller Weiss as they mourn the death of Byron's mother, Jeanette Miller. Jeanette passed away unexpectedly Thursday night at the age of 94. She attended First Universalist off and on since the mid-1980s. And the family appreciates prayers for comfort and strength. And we hold Bob Friedman and his family in our hearts. Bob's stepmother of 54 years, Marge Friedman, died peacefully at the age of 98. Her compassion, generosity, and wisdom will be missed. And we hold in our hearts all those affected by gun violence overnight and in the last several days in the Twin Cities. And honestly, around the country and around the world. Our hearts are with the people who lost their lives. Our hearts are with those injured. Our hearts are with all of those affected. And this morning, to acknowledge the heartache and loss that our dear friends are bearing, and to hold the light in each human heart as sacred. We light a candle in the memory of Jeanette Miller. And we light a candle in memory of Marge Friedman. May their light and may their life shine on in us all. And dear ones, these are times of surprising grace, times when joy breaks through and transforms us with its unexpected energy and lightness. And so I invite you to share in the chat those things that are bringing you joy, that are bringing you happiness, that are lifting your spirits and helping you to make it through. New friendships, running in a marathon, flowers, dragonflies, hummingbirds, new pets, blowing bubbles. That gorgeous rainbow that lit up the sky. All of the ways that we are connecting, even in this time of distance. The sweetness of these last days with Reverend Ruth, who has brought so much sweetness into our lives. And to your joys, I add that we join Josh Gwynn and his whole family in celebrating Josh's graduation from college last Sunday. Josh's studies were unexpectedly interrupted in his 20s, and he is proud to have earned his degree while working full-time and raising 2 small children, just months shy of his 50th birthday. And as Seth reminded us, we hold in our hearts this morning all of those celebrating Father's Day. This is a complicated day for many, and we hold in tender love all those of all genders, biological and chosen family, who have worked hard to teach us through their example about gender, about living lives of integrity, and about the process of growing into adults ready to continue the work of changing the world. We are grateful. Friends, may the grip of addiction be loosened. May the weight of oppression be lightened. May grief be shared. May joy break through, and may love make every suffering bearable for us all. May it be so, and amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me.
Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion.
Blow in the wind,
Rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots holding thoughts, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to begin our time together with a poem by Mark Nepo called For the 1000th Time, I Want to Know. If an empty box is torn apart, the air inside still joins the rest. If an empty heart is shattered, the love inside still coats the stars. And when a dove is born, its shell is done. How much fear we know depends on whether we live as something torn apart or as the air released. How much pain turns to suffering depends on whether we live as something shattered or the love about to join. We can live as a shell waiting to crack, or as a dove waking to its song. I honestly don't know how to say goodbye to you today. It's hard enough just saying goodbye on a Zoom meeting or on a walk, appropriately distanced. I don't know about you, but I just want to hug somebody. It's like there's this gravitational pull that I have to actively work against in order to not seal our time that we have spent together with some form of touch. I've tried putting my hands like this. I have tried the air hug. I've tried the wave. It all falls pretty flat. I'll just be honest. My body longs to give and receive a good, solid hug, or the squeeze of a hand at the least. The heart in my chest wants to feel the beating of the heart in your chest, to say that we have meant something to one another, to say that something tender or important has been shared between us, or simply to say that my humanity has met your humanity, and we seal the real of that reality in an embrace with touch. But that is not the way of things today. All of us are having to cross thresholds of endings in new ways, ways that feel off somehow because we can't touch or be physically present with one another. Whether we've lost a loved one and we are not able to gather in memorial, or we have sent a loved one off to a hospital and we can't be with them in some of their most trying times, or we've had an important conversation on a Zoom platform, or we're trying to say goodbye to a congregation. We're all having to navigate these endings without touch, and it's hard. So this is what I have, and this is what you have, and it is not enough, and it is enough, all at the same time. So I have been thinking a lot about my mother and an experience I had with one of her caregivers who was helping me as my mom lived some of the last days of her life this past August. I was sitting at the dining room table trying to get my mom to take a little morsel of food. And let's just say that was a very slow and arduous process. So I had gotten out one of this scrapbook that I had made for my mother to remind her of her days on the farm when she was growing up, or to remind her about her camping days as she just pushed the applesauce around the plate. And at one point, Karen, her caregiver, came over and looked at the picture book, and what she saw was this picture that we're about to show you. I hope. Yes, there it is. Okay, so there's a picture of my young mother as she is graduating from college, and what my mother looked like in the last month or 2 months of her life. And I said to Karen, isn't she beautiful? Can't you just see my young mother in my old 93 old mother's face? Can't you just see it? Doesn't she just look like an older version of herself? And Karen responded, nope. I looked at Karen like, what? No, you don't see that heart-shaped face in that old face. You don't see those eyes of resolve in those old eyes, or that determined line in her mouth, in that mouth. You can't see that. Of course, I didn't say all that. I just thought it. And I just was dumbfounded that Karen couldn't see what I clearly saw. And then it just dawned on me that I saw my young mother in so many features of my old mother, because I'd lived right alongside my young mother as she became my older mother. I lived with her as those heavily lidded eyes became just little cracks of light that sat on the top of her cheekbones. I lived beside her as that delicate nose became so much more pronounced as she aged and her face seemed to shrink. I lived with her through it all, and Karen hadn't. All Karen saw, all she knew was that old face, this old woman who had a twinkle in her eye, who cracked some really good jokes, who expressed gratitude, who couldn't remember what age she was. She was always 100 years old. She couldn't remember what age she was or anybody's name, but all she could remember that meant so much to me was that she could remember how to hold a hand, pat it, and say, I love you. Karen loved the energy of my mother. She loved her energy, but she didn't have any idea of the events or experiences that shaped that energy or shaped the features of that face. I've been thinking a lot about energy and experiences as I live out these last few days at First Universalist Church. I've been thinking a lot about legacy. And quite frankly, I don't believe in legacy. Not in the concretized way that we think of it usually, like some little plaque that we put on a wall that denotes that someone gave a financial gift, or hoping that we can accomplish some incredible feat before we die so that we will be remembered through the ages. I just don't believe in that kind of legacy. I think this conception of legacy is some kind of spiritual sleight of hand that we are playing with ourselves because we are terrified of death. If you don't believe in hell, then that certainly puts the existence of heaven into question. And that means that we have this one and only life. And we are so afraid that this one and only wild and precious life that we have will mean nothing. I got a big lesson in legacy when I began my ministry at First Universalist Church and started working with our coming of age class 6 years ago. For 35 years, before ever beginning my work at this church, I was a freelance singer. I was a playwright. I was a composer. I had toured all over the United States and many of the Nordic countries. For the 20 years before I went to seminary, I was deep into theater. I lived on oatmeal for probably 3 weeks in the younger part of my career because I couldn't afford to eat anything else. And at the end of my career, I had 3 or 4 of my plays produced by the Guthrie and the Children's Theater. The youth didn't care. They didn't care. It didn't mean anything to them. And when an adult, not that I talked about it, but adults in the class would pipe up at certain times. If you're having some problems with music, you might want to ask Reverend Ruth about it. They'd say something like that because she's done a few things in her life. They didn't care. Here's what they cared about. They cared about energy. Energy. Will my energy meet their energy? Will my passion meet their passion? Will my tenderness meet their tenderness? Will my, will I see them? That's what they cared about. Will I see them? Will I listen to them? Am I trustworthy? And I tried to live into that energy that they so sorely wanted and needed. They didn't know about all the successes and failures I'd had that led to this old face. All they knew was that there was some older white lady who got a little intense sometimes, who asked them really big questions way too early in the morning, and who would sit across from them in one-on-ones and ask them stuff like, what do you think the world is about? Where do you place your trust at the end of the day? What do you think faith is about? What do you think good really is? What do you think God is? What do you think grace is? The Reverend John Cummins, who served this congregation from 1963 to 1986, was a pivotal player in the Universalist faith tradition, regionally and nationally. And I'm going to bet that if you joined this church within the last 10 years, you do not have a clue about who John Cummins was or anything that he did or anything that he said. At a racial justice gathering maybe 8 years ago, I heard our beloved John Cummins talk about stuffing himself onto the floor of a sedan and covering himself over with blankets to participate in the march in Selma to Montgomery all those years back in 1965, as he joined many other clergy members, white, black, and brown, trying to make justice happen. I know that he counseled conscientious objectors during the Vietnam War and confronted federal officers as they tried to get into our building to arrest one of our members, George Crocker, and John wouldn't let them in. He said, over my dead body. And they threatened violence, and he said, this is a sanctuary and you are not coming in. I know that he sheltered different folks from Central America as they looked for refuge and resources in the Twin Cities. Now, John Cummins was not a touchy-feely guy. Let's get that straight right now. But he was fiercely holding on to the affirmation that every human spirit had inherent worth and dignity, and he lived it. He lived it to the fullest of his resources, his spiritual resources. Now, if you're an old timer here at First U, and had the privilege of living beside the ministry of John Cummins and collaborating with the young John Cummins as he became the old John Cummins, and this community emerged as a new iteration of itself, well then, yeah, you remember the particulars, the facial features of this place. But the rest of us, all we know is that we just love this church. We just know that we are lending our energy to the energy field that is already moving and enlivening this place. I sense the energy of John Cummins and the good people of First Universalist Church from that time away when we push for racial justice, when we trust and follow Black leadership. I sense the life energy when we house a family in Justin's office for over 2 years. I sense the energy when we've tried to move the practice of peace from a pole that sits in our front yard to an active stance of dismantling systems of oppression that are killing every one of us, and living into our values of faith that might bring about a new world order. Seth and I are on the same wavelength. Maya Angelou says it best. At the end of the day, no one will remember what you did or said. They will remember how you made them feel. Life aches for itself. Life aches for itself with such force and ferocity that it covers over all the particulars of any life, the ebbs and flows, the beginnings, the endings, in the blink of an eye. And yet it is the energy, the feel of a life, the feel of a place, the feel of a people, of a movement, of a time that will be remembered and that we will build upon. Energy inspires energy. Love energy inspires love energy. Justice energy inspires justice. Beauty inspires beauty. And I have to be honest here, hateful energy inspires hateful energy. That is why it is so very important to remain true and steadfast to the principles and values, the reaching energy for the good that has guided this place and its people through the years, to work for the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, to hold fast to justice, equity, and compassion in all of our human relations, to accept and encourage one another in our spiritual growth, to remember that the thing that makes us a liberal tradition, a liberal religious tradition, is the fact that we believe in the free and responsible search for truth, that we use democratic processes to make our way forward and to make sure that everybody is in the circle, that we want a world of shalom. A world of shalom, that means right relationship with peace, liberty, justice, and whatever is holy in this life. And we endeavor to live like everything is connected. That we commit ourselves to journey toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Friends, these are statements of energy. They are energetic statements, and they are worthy of our lives. They are worthy of our love. They are promises that we need to hold and revisit with all seriousness and resolve. And I must bear witness that the energy of this faith community today. Our energy is vibrant. It is passionate. It is promising. It is beautiful. It is clumsy sometimes, yes, and it is worthy. This is a worthy place. We are living into the moment. We are meeting the moment, and you are being led by a tremendous team of collaborative artists who are disciplined. And I want to speak their names in this space today. Kevin Ambrose, Krista Anders, Chelsea Birch, Randy Bykema, Eric Cooperstein, Jen Crow, Liz Farmer, Brianna French, Sarah Hedge, Franco Holder, Craig Holzer, Karen Hutt, Arif Mamdani, Seth Matz, Ben Miles, Dan Moriarty, Emma Paskowitz, Brad Schmidt, Justin Schroeder, Richard Spratt, John Stites, Jen Stromberg, Richard Thomas, Tracy Van Epps, Lucia Webb, AJ Williams, Darren Woodson, Lauren Wyeth. There are so many who are bringing their energy to this place, so many who have who are living their legacy into this place called church. Our congregational care teams, our racial justice teams, our worship associates, our pastoral visitors, our visual arts teams, our artists in residence, our choir, our children's choir, our chalice lighters, our chalice readers, our faithful action teams, our memorial team, our sanctuary team, our religious education leaders and volunteers. Man, the list just goes on and on. There are not enough words. There are not enough poems to express the health and vibrancy of what First Universalist Church is right now. So the only thing I can think of as I leave you at this time of hurt and grief, exhaustion and leverage, of promise and purpose, is to ask, what promises do we need to make one another? What promises do we need to make to one another today? And what energies do we want to lend our life energies to? So just sit with that for a moment, would you? What promises do we need to make to one another? I've been sitting with that question for a while now. So here's the promises I'm going to make to all of you. I promise to follow the path of racial justice to my dying breath. I want the whole and holy of every human being to be seen and celebrated. I want people to experience a new world that I have had a glimmer of when I went to Standing Rock, and now that is happening at 38th in Chicago. This promise is not going to come to fruition if I just say I believe in it. This promise means that I actively work towards and live into this new thing that we are endeavoring to create together. So I promise my life energy to this wonderful practice, this task. As any artist will tell you, It is practice that, yes, it sometimes feels like work, but for the most part, it feels like life. And that's why you practice. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to practice, and I want you to practice with me. Yes, I will make mistakes. Yes, I will stumble. I have and will many times more. But the important piece is showing up. You know, that's the important piece. I want the children and youth that I've had the privilege to serve over the course of my years at First Universalist Church to live in a different world. And I want you to help me make that world different. I want a world that's compassionate and sustainable. The more I lean into racial justice, the more I know it is soul work. It is our soul work, and it makes us all better. The other promise I make to you today is I will always pay attention to beauty. Beauty is more than something that is pretty, and it is more than something that sounds good. Beauty is the holy geometry of life. When we pay attention to beauty and its varied and marvelous expressions, we bear witness to the holy in ourselves, to the holy in one another, to the holy in our creations, to the holy in the world. When we pay attention to beauty, it can act as a compass for our hearts and our communities. When we pay attention to that relationship to beauty, we may just be surprised into a new world. If an empty box is torn apart, the air inside just joins the rest. And when a dove is born, the shell is done. How much fear we know depends on whether we live as something torn apart or something released. How much pain turns to suffering depends on whether we live as something shattered or as the love about to join. Friends, no one will remember the particulars of what we have said or done, but they will remember our energy. Our energy. Thank you for ordaining me. God, I hope I can talk loud enough so you can hear me. Gosh. Thank you for ordaining me. Thank you for placing this mantle around my shoulders. Thank you for inviting me to serve this community with all the heart and spirit I could muster. Thank you for allowing my energy to join with your energy to create and recreate First Universalist Church. May each of us live individually and communally as doves waking to our song. Amen. And blessed be.
Ruth. I hope you can feel our ginormous hugs and our love. You have helped us again and again just awaken to our own song. You have seen us and heard us into being. You have let your spirit touch and activate and enliven our spirits. So I think I'm speaking for everyone, those who are just here for the first time, when we just say, we love you. We love you deeply. We have been blessed by you. You have, you've just shown up. Plain and simple, you've just shown up 110% full tilt right there with all of us, So this is a weird pivot. We're gonna pivot to the offering because that's just a little ramp to get to this special thing you've prepared for us. And so our offering this morning will be a 50-50 split between Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism and First Universalist Church. There's a number of ways you can give. Those ways are on your screen. You can give via your phone, via text, or you can use the Square Cash app. You can give online via our website or send a check by mail. Ruth, thank you again for your ministry with us. And I know you've prepared something for us. And so I want to invite you to take us on a little journey.
Okay, I will. Friends, I'm quite good at making little scrapbooks since being with my mom. And so actually I made a photo scrapbook for all of you. And I, I bet, well, I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's happened to me plenty. And that is where an auntie will sit me down on a sofa and make me look at a bunch of really bad pictures. And she'll just sit me down and say, now, come on now, just take a look at this. Isn't this nice? And it's like half faces and it's blurry and I don't know, usually a head's cut off somewhere or another. And it, sometimes I don't want to sit beside her and watch it, but oftentimes when I do, it's so much more than the pictures. It's actually that I'm sitting beside her and remembering how much I love her and how much she loves me. So friends, I'm going to ask you to come and sit on my sofa with me. Just a minute, here we go. We're going to go into the living room. Come here. This is my house and I'm coming into the living room now. Uh-oh. I hope I don't have too much reverb there. Okay, and here I am. This is my couch. Okay, let's sit down. You're gonna sit right here. Okay, have a seat. Okay, so this is the photo album I've made for you. And I also wanted to, this. Okay, it's a wonderful stole, but it's in my way right now. Okay, so here we are, nice and comfy. So this is a little photo I made for you, and I also wanted to sing you a song on my last day. So this is a song by Elizabeth Alexander that she composed using the words of Hafiz. And as most of you know, I love those mystics. So here we go.
Even after all this time, 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 the sun never says to the earth, with a love like that. Look what happens with the love like that. Look what happens with a love like that. It lights a whole sky. It lights the whole sky. It lights the whole sky. Even after all this time, a love like that lights a whole sky.
Oh, I hope you enjoyed my scrapbook. Sorry. So the way I'd like to close today is saying to you what I've been saying to myself many times right now. Now is the time to know that everything you do is sacred. Now is the time to know that. Live that. Put all your energy towards that, my friends. This is the way. This is the way. I love you so very much, and I will miss First Universalist Church. Go out into this day knowing that you are loved by me and so many others. And now let's sing Go Now in Peace together. As we part, please know that there are some different coffee hours that are taking place after the service, and you can find those on the links in the Liberal or on our webpage. And join us for Wednesday's worship and next Sunday's worship. I really hope that you might join me next week. I'm going to stand on the steps of First Universalist Church and at least wave goodbye to you folks starting at 11:30. So if you want to come and have an air hug or a heart-shaped thing or a wave of a hand, I would love to see you at First Universalist Church between 11:30 and like 12:30 or 1. So drop by, and with that, we will close today, extinguishing our chalice and knowing that we carry the flame in our hearts. Take care.